I never thought I was starting what has happened with Show and Tales when I started it 10 years ago. I never truly thought that offering a space for people to tell the stories of the things that matter would be that transformative. But, and that connected. I just didn't understand it exactly myself. I just started it as a way to promote Memories Out of the Box, my first business. But I want to do a little demo with the help of a few people here, so you can get a sense of these people that you know and have known for a while, sense of them a little bit with them sharing a story of an object. I'm going to start with Paul, because I don't know about you, but I've been wondering about this hat since the minute I met Paul. So, Paul, take it away.
We're live.
We are live. You are at 1 Million Cups Albuquerque. So I see a bunch of people I haven't seen here before. Welcome to 1 Million Cups Albuquerque. This is a forum for entrepreneurs. So I'm going to briefly introduce you to the subject. But the first thing to do is to check in. Point your phone at that or at those cards that are sitting around the table, the QR code, and let the Kaufman Foundation, our sponsors, know that you're here to show them that the Albuquerque chapter of 1 Million Cups is thriving. All right. And oh, by the way, if you check in 3 times, you'll get a pen. If you check in 6 times on different occasions, you'll get the coveted 1 Million Cups notebook. So, thank you for your assistance in this. So here's our mission. It's difficult. Oh, here's a clicker. It's difficult being an entrepreneur. It's a lonely and uncertain journey, and you're going to need allies and people to give you advice and show you the things you don't know. And so we're lowering the barrier of access to education, resources, and connection for all new and aspiring entrepreneurs. And how do we do that? We have a national and local mission. The national mission is sponsored by the Kaufman Foundation, and there are close to 200 chapters of 1 Million Cups across the United States, meeting at 9 a.m. on Wednesday to make it inconvenient for people who have corporate jobs to show up. So the Kaufman Foundation provides us with a set of tools, a back end, and also training for our organizers. So we coach the presenters to give a 1 Million Cups presentation, and we take advantage of all the unique aspects of the New Mexico community. So these are chapters all across the Southwest. We are the most outstanding chapter in New Mexico, and we achieve that by having a small denominator. And there are other chapters, and I've been to some of these locations. If you're on the road and it's Wednesday at 9 a.m., I encourage you to drop in to Million Cups somewhere. There are no strangers, just friends you haven't met. You'll recognize the format, and people will be welcoming. So here's the key pillars. This is what makes us different from everybody else. These are presentations, not pitches. So in a pitch, you're typically asking for money, and your company is flawless, except for absence of fuel in the tank. You have the perfect team, you have the perfect idea, you have a perfect IP mode, and you look forward to ringing the opening bell on the NASDAQ in 2 years. But that doesn't happen, does it? That's not what it's like inside your company. Okay. So this is a safe place where you can talk about your challenges, your vulnerabilities, and the things you need from the community. And you can build relationships so that people will tell you, you know, what you really ought to think about is this. And I know from personal experience that you can be in the middle of a company and just not think of things that are perfectly obvious to people outside of that company. So talking to people here is a good way to find out what those things are and get you on the right track. These are authentic connections, not networking. We're not having a speed dating contest to see how many business cards you can pass out. We're interested in making real connections that have an impact on your entrepreneurship. It's run for the community, by the community. So mostly we want to have a place where it's easy for people to talk to each other. All of the organizers are volunteers. We're not masochistic altruists. We all get a lot out of it. I could speak personally about what I've gotten out of Million Cups. We're radically and intentionally inclusive. All kinds of entrepreneurs are welcome at all stages of development. Mom and pop brick and mortar operations, companies that are whiteboard companies that haven't sold anything to anybody yet, and companies that have, gone all the way and are in their B round, and they drop in here every once in a while to show us how it's done. So everybody's welcome, and we also try to keep this as friendly and educational as possible, and we'll talk about that in a second here. This is a welcoming and educational space. You might find somebody says something publicly that you strongly disagree with. It might be an occasion to keep your opinion to yourself and promote a friendly environment or find a diplomatic way to make your point. So please make everyone feel welcome and keep 1 Million Cups thriving in Albuquerque. All right, it's also possible for you to apply to present. We have an organizing team. You talk to us. Most people here who have presented will tell you they got something out of it, and we'll do our best to make you look your best in front of these people. If you have a for-profit business defined as a company that delivers goods and services for more than it costs to produce them, and you've sold to somebody who's not your mom, you're eligible to present. We prefer companies that were in existence 5 years or less, because we like to get people in the struggling startup stage. But every once in a while, we hear updates from people who are past that stage, and that's fun too. So we'll assign you a coach, and we'll make you look your best in front of this group. All right, this is our organizing team. I'm Paul Sauter with Equiseat. Lisa Atkins here with Fat Pipe. Eric Rins-Whitmore, probably online. Danielle, who knows just about everybody in this room. And Sonia Dewey, probably online. And Kekoa and Oscar doing legacy family documentaries. We're fortunate to have sponsors. Our anchor sponsor is Fat Pipe. We've been here for 10 years now.
Gosh, it's day one, yeah.
So the first 1 Million Cups was held in the back over there. We had, I don't know, a dozen people or so. And over the years, it has really thrived. And it wouldn't have been possible without Fat Pipe making this space available to us at no cost. Dry heat photography, that's new. I don't know anything about it.
Deanna Vincent is our new photographer.
Oh, that's
Welcome,
fantastic.
please.
Thank you. I mean, I thought this was going to be the first undocumented Million Cups,
No.
you know, since Jason left, right? And again, applause to Jason. And then more than organized, Miriam Ortiz-Pino, organizing your stuff, your thoughts, and providing creamer. Foundation for Sustainable Living. Hey, providing our coffee. You know, no coffee, no talkie. That's what I say. And Noventum Custom Software Development, building software that doesn't suck, and also providing donuts. Minuteman Press for all your putting ink on paper needs. Those are our sponsors. And thanks for joining us. I'm going to hand it over to Danielle, who's going to introduce one of her many friends.
Hello, everyone. I am really excited to introduce our presenter today. So Marty McNabb with her business Thingtide Show and Tale. Really creative, lots of fun, going to be interactive today. And I'm really excited to bring her on up. So let's do it.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Marty McNabb. And needless to say, we're all very familiar with the saying that the best things in life aren't things. Yet, for over 20, well, not over 20 years, but over 10 years, I've had the pleasure of hosting story sharing gatherings called Show and Tell, which, like elementary school, show and tell, where I invite people to bring photos and objects, aka things that matter, and share the story of those things. This was a simple thing that I started 10 years ago to promote my original business, which is called Memories Out of the Box. So in that, I've worked with people's photo, document, and memorabilia archives, everything they've saved or inherited in their life that sadly gets stuck in a box. So I work with my clients to get all of those things together, and then I spend hours and hours and hours going through and curating this collection with the goal, the eye to turn all of that stuff into a visual narrative of their lives or their businesses, obviously, because that's also its life. So needless to say, for 30 years, I've been telling stories with other people's stuff. But it was really hard to promote this business when I started it 25 years ago, because people didn't understand. They're like, oh, you digitize things. Oh, you organize things. Oh, you scan things. You know, they just couldn't conceive of somebody creating basically a personal museum for my clients, being a curator for them. So I started these story sharing things as a way, these events as a way to build deeper connections and community and legacy and be able to get to be known, liked, and remembered. So these are, as I mentioned, I've hosted over 200, maybe 250 events, show and tales over the last decade. So I've had the great pleasure of doing it. It started in the back room of a branded saloon in Prospect Heights, Brooklyn. And then we went to Dixon Place in New York City and Manhattan. I also had a friend who encouraged me to go and stand in the middle of Central Park and ask passerbys what they remember from show and tell from elementary school, and if they could tell me the story of the things that they were wearing or that were in their backpack or in their bag or on their feet. We had about 8 people stop and do that. That was a little out of my comfort zone, but I gave it a try. I recently went down to the Villages in Florida and hosted a show and tell at a metaphysical shop there, a fairy dust. And then this is at the old stone house in Brooklyn that was a Mother's Day event. So, and then of course I've done, like everybody, moved everything online when we got stuck during the pandemic. And then this most recent one, I did an event. I worked with a friend who has Stoop Stories is the name of her company in Brooklyn. And so we partnered on a Stoop Story show and tales like mashup during this summer. So I realized why it's so difficult to do things outside because you're always worried about the weather, right? So a little bit about why you only see me a couple of times a year. So here so I live part-time here and part-time in Vermont and part-time in this little camper van. Her name is Brooklyn. She's not here right now, but she's been here before. And the reason why I'm here is because over 30 years ago, I met and fell in love with the love of my life. But the timing really sucked. I was recently divorced, basically, and I wasn't ready to settle down, even though she did ask me to marry her. But she knew I had to say no back then. But during the pandemic, right before the pandemic, I was out here for a conference of the photo managers. So yes, there is a community of people who will focus and manage your photo collection, both physical and digital. And I've been a member of them for about 6 years, because before that, I was a member of the Association of Personal Historians. But I was out here for a conference. And I reconnected with this woman. I said, "You want to go out for lunch?" And so we went out for lunch. And then a year later, we were both stuck in quarantine, like stuck in the pandemic. I was in Asheville, North Carolina, and she was here. And we started texting and calling and officially started redating a little over 3 years ago during the start of the pandemic. So this is her right here. Awesome. So, and she's right there in the middle of the room, right next to my friend Gail. So a lot has happened there. And my mom is 87 and she lives in Vermont. My mom-in-law is 89 and she lives here with me and my wife. So needless to say, there's 2,200 miles between us. But we're making it work in our 60s and caring for our moms and all of that. So anyway, that's why you'll only see me through the winter times and a few other months here. So without further ado, that's me. I never thought I was starting what has happened with show and tales when I started it 10 years ago. I never truly thought that offering a space for people to tell the stories of the things that matter would be that transformative, and that connective. I just didn't understand it exactly myself. I just started it as a way to promote Memories Out of the Box, my first business. But I want to do a little demo with the help of a few people here, so you can get a sense of these people that you know and have known for a while, sense of them a little bit with them sharing a story of an object. I'm going to start with Paul, because I don't know about you, but I've been wondering about this hat since the minute I met Paul. So Paul, take it away.
All right. Many of you know I'm a recovering academic, and I started out as a Drosophila geneticist, and you probably don't even really know what that is. So when I entered the private sector, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I said, well, this is business. I don't know anything about business, but I want to be taken seriously. So I got, the business suits, the pinstripes and everything. And I would come to Million Cups in the business suit. And one time I was talking to somebody new, and they said, oh, you're in marketing. I'm like, oops, I overshot, right? So maybe on the East Coast this would work, but out here, no, right? So I started, I abandoned it, and I had to go with what I wear in the field. And so when we go out to work with horse people, there was an occasion at a horse event where I was picked up from the airport wearing my suit because it rumples in the luggage. And I was brought straight to this horse event. And I had to talk to these people in this tent, and I'm wearing a suit, and they're just like, not happening. And the next day I'm changed into kind of this, and wearing the cowboy boots, which are amazingly waterproof, which is great because it's rain and there was mud everywhere. And and I fit in, right? And then they would listen. And I had this lousy cowboy hat, kind of standard one, and it just looks dumb on me, right? And so I was walking around for something to keep the sun off me and keep the rain off me, and going with the rest of the gear and fit in with these horse people. And I go into this tourist shop in Old Town, and this thing's sitting there for $40. And I kind of like the attitude because it's kind of Australian and it has that wave in the front. And it doesn't look like, I'm a Texas oil baron. So I'm like, that'll work, right? And I just started wearing it all the time. And then I'd be at these big events like at, Electric Playhouse or other, there's hundreds of people and exhibits. And people are trying to find me, and they're like, oh, the guy in the cowboy hat. So it turned out to be great. And then somebody else who's now an advisor of ours said to me, with the hat and the shirt and everything, you are like the most successful in personal branding. I'm like, I just don't have a big wardrobe budget. I wasn't thinking about it. I just fit into horse people and not have to change clothes when when the plane lands and I get out. So that's the story of my hat. And I'll throw in one more thing. I was at a fundraiser for Melanie Stansbury, and they knew I was coming, right? And she knows who I am. And there was this person there, and they said, hey, look at this. And they had like the authentic, Australian thing. I could tell it was expensive. And they said, what do you think of this? I'm like, this is just a piece of junk from the tour shop. I love that. So like maybe when we're a little further along, I'll get the real thing. But anyway, that's the story of the hat. It like kind of overshot one way. I think I've landed kind of where I belong right now. And if people can't remember, my last name because it's challenging, because my parents were literate when they emigrated here, so they didn't have to anglicize their name at Ellis Island. So it's difficult. And so the hat and the cowboy thing doesn't look like anyone else at an event where there's hundreds of people. So it's turned out to be really effective.
That is amazing. So we were just talking about our personal branding, right? So this is a perfect opportunity to invite my next person to share, because talk about personal branding. So,
I'm going to stop the slideshow just for while they're presenting.
Oh, yes.
So they can get a better view of whoever's speaking.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Sure,
So we'll
absolutely.
bring him back up in a second.
Okay, thank you. All right, here you go. Hello.
Thank you, Marty. Hi, I'm Gail Rubin, the doyen of death. I am a death educator who uses humor, movie clips, and outside the box activities to get people to plan ahead for our 100% mortality rate. And as you can see, I got the boots, I got the shirt, I got a scarf, I got skulls on everything. Anything I buy with a skull on it is a business expense. And you may see postcards for my big event coming up next week, starting on Monday, the Before I Die New Mexico Festival, which is 6 days of outside the box activities to help you learn about what you need to know before you go. So I hope you'll check that out. I have brought this little toy bat. This little toy that is very special to me. So this year I had the opportunity to use not once but twice my own advice. My husband, Dave Fleischer, was 71 years old when he went in for prostate surgery back in April. It led to medical complications, heart attack, sepsis, coding in the hospital. And within 3 weeks, he died on hospice. And Dave was a fan of bats. And he actually earlier on in his life here in New Mexico, worked with an organization called Talking Talents, where he'd hold a hawk or an owl up on his arm and get kids inspired to learn about the environment and leadership. Well, so he always carried this little bat in his pocket. And after he died, I have not yet cleaned out most of his clothes, but I started pulling out coats and boots and other things to donate. And in fact, Talking Talents, I made them the beneficiary of his, in lieu of flowers, donate to this organization. And the executive director told me that so many people donated, they started a scholarship in his name. And they have a thrift store, and they said, anything you donate of his will continue to donate to the scholarship. So I was going through coats to donate, and I found this in one of the coat pockets. And so I'm holding on to this one.
I had the great pleasure of spending time with Dave over the years. So, but that's great story. Great story of that thing. I keep on thinking when I clean out my mother's coats, I'm going to find used tissue, clean tissue, and bags. Not something as great as that. All right, and we have one last share, and then we'll move on to the rest of the students.
Hello again, I'm back. I am Danielle with Conscious Crossroads End of Life Services. So I'm an end of life coach and death doula. So I help people at their last moments and months, weeks, days. So this necklace that I'm wearing today is from a recent client that died in August. Her name was Dory, and she was an official badass. She had traveled the world. She and her wife had an amazing farm where they sold to the community at farmers markets, and it's now an amazing garden where I still get to receive amazing vegetables. And the family was incredible. They were amazingly supportive of her. The leave taking ceremony that we had when she left, so she had died, family had an opportunity to sit with her body and view her. And when the mortuary came to pick her up, I stood on one side of the porch, her cousin stood on the other side of the porch. We each had singing bowls, and she was doing Buddhist chants. The mortuary brought her out, wrapped up, but with her face still exposed and her hands out. Family was lined up with flowers, and everybody tucked flowers into her hands. So she looked like she was holding a little bouquet on her way out. And so that's how they all got to say their final goodbyes. And it was about 3 or 4 days before she died that she called me over, and she couldn't speak, but she used her phone to communicate and said, I want you to have this. And so it's a little pearl and a heart, and I'll squeeze into the camera so you can see it. So thank you, Dory. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Oh, that was great. It's like, what's she doing? All right. Yes. So needless to say, in these over 200 events, people have brought things that are meaningful to them, that are about personal branding, fitting in, connecting, about things, obviously, that people leave behind when they're gone. So one of the things I wanted to ask is, I am grateful to have a good friend who actually just has a place in Brooklyn, and just last year we got a place in Taos. Bill Shapiro. So he's a former editor-in-chief of Life magazine, but also amazing writer. And he and his partner, Naomi Wax, ended up traveling the country and inviting people to answer this one question. What thing brings you joy, magic, and meaning? So what thing do you surround yourself? What thing did somebody leave to you? And so in this, it was just one thing. They ended up creating this 150 people's answer to that question. And again, one of the things they found is this is not your heirlooms. This is not stuff that has high monetary value. This is just the things you surround yourself with in the stories that they end up telling. So I just want you to take 1 minute, think about it, and while I move on to the next. So I also have a podcast called Things That Matter. And one of the questions I always ask my guests, and I'm always looking for guests, so please reach out to me, is about this thing, is what do you want to have happen to this thing when you're gone, like Danielle was saying. So I know lots of people who put out objects. I know Gail has been to many where there's the great giveaway, Native American practice of, okay, we've got certain things for certain people, but then we're going to invite the community to come and take something from this. So, all right, what did I do? So, like I said, I'm not familiar with it. All right, so I just wanted to thank everyone here for sharing. I believe that story sharing and listening to these stories is equally a generous and vulnerable act. And I wanted to invite you to consider, not just one thing, but maybe 30 things that you surround yourself with, and what 30 things would tell your life story. So I do have a little play sheet, I call it, instead of a worksheet, to consider this. And these are so let's see. All right, so my why. So needless to say, I'm grateful for the opportunity. I got written up in the Wall Street Journal. I was featured in 2 books, and actually a 3rd book, thanks to Gail. This Before I Die Festival in a Box. She's helping other people create this festival around the country and around the world. But the real thing is having somebody call and leave me a random message on my machine, thanking me for providing a space for her not to feel so lonely during the pandemic. Never talked to her again, but I did respond to her and say, can I use this in my, for testimonials? And she said, absolutely. But she didn't even share at the event. It was just having the event. So, but this isn't really my why. The why are these things. So here's Bill. He's come to several of my in-person and my virtual events so far. This one was his Frampton Comes Alive album that he brought to, we did one as a home, like a salon in a home. And of course that was, like for separating seeds from from pot. So anyway, this was out in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. And then Matt Paxton from Hoarders. He's come to several of my events, and I haven't gotten an official testimonial from him yet, but he said, hey, that event was super awesome. I think that could be the start of something really big. So this is my why. I've got hundreds of testimonials like this, and the big thing is people stay at these events, they feel connected, but this is the challenge. This is my request of you. So I've been hosting these again for a decade, hosted 250, but they're all one-offs, I call them. So I've got 25 different themes, scars, tats, and piercings, love letters, lockets, and valentines, tails, paws, beaks, and claws. So these all have been one-offs. What I've started to realize, because my real goal is building deeper connections and community and legacy, is to have these be exhibitions, interactive community exhibitions, where everybody, quote unquote, donates an object that gets photographed and put up as an exhibition. And then you invite people to be curious about one another. Like if it was hanging here, like if we could get 30 people and have an exhibition here, who donated? We know that hat, but there's some things that we wouldn't know necessarily. And it would be an encouragement and an invitation to be curious and ask one another about things. So that's my thing is like, where can this be an exhibition, or where can this be brought to a like senior living community where we're always talking about building deeper and having people come in and ask questions and be curious about one another. So that's things that matter is what I'm asking. It would be our community, and 30 things would be the title. And then, you know, an exhibition with or without a program. So like I said, for this, because I want to do series, I want to do longer term things than one-off. So that's the big question. And this is sort of a demo, I mean, it's clip art and everything, but this is the idea of the exhibition. You know, it's like, you know, people bring stuff from Valentine's Day. Obviously, people have stories about their weapons, hats, toys, things like that. And then this would be an interactive piece where everybody would be encouraged to guess who gave which object. So that's what I'm looking for you to help with.
We're going to take questions. You can form a line. I'll pull up the chat window and take questions online. Marty, I don't know if that pipe is a good place, but we have lots of shelves. It might be fun to do it here. I actually have a legacy item. There's 2 random smoke shop signs here. Oh. We've had multiple people come into Fat Pipe thinking we were a smoke shop. My grandfather used to be the fire chief of the downtown Albuquerque fire station. And when he retired, he opened up a smoke shop on Central between 2nd and 3rd. And when he died, and the family, you know, 20 years later emptied his storage unit and found these signs, I'm like, I have to have those for Fat Pipe. There is a little story underneath the signs if you want to read it about my grandfather. We called him Tractor. So
Tractor?
Mhm.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that.
All right, so Miriam, you come first, and then I'll look at the chat window online.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, we should do it here. That'd be fun.
I love it.
Hi, Marty. Come back over here. I'm Miriam Ortiz-Pino with More Than Organized. Very familiar with photo organizers and what you do. I love this idea so much. I'm just like spinning with 20 ideas for you. I know. Yeah, and then you'd add one more thing, and I was like, oh, and then it could be this and that. But I love I was going to the online arena, and then I realized the collective in-person curated exhibit was really cool. And then it goes back to the digital, where you can take all the different communities and pull the item. Like, these are the hat stories, these are the jewelry stories, these are the album stories or whatever, and rearrange them online for some cool stuff as well. But we're going to talk.
Yes.
We're going to get more.
Yes.
And I think as people are aging too, that the marketing of it is going to become very natural and normal, and connecting with the great deaf people in this room.
Yes.
Is good.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, I love it. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. I mean, obviously, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the New York Times did a piece on the things that were left behind for all the people that they lost to COVID, and they literally had just their objects.
Yeah, Sue Pelosny, go ahead and make your comment.
Hi, Marty. I just love what you do. So recently, my mother just turned 93, And when all my sisters were in town, Mom decided she wanted us to go through the china cabinet and divvy out things for us, for her nieces, nephews, etc. 2.5 days later, everything in there had a story. So we decided to record the story and attach it to the item. And I think it was one of the best ideas we had. Thank you. I love what you do.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you took that opportunity to do it. I know too many people, I'm sure Danielle does too, and Gail as well, who in deaf care that know too many people who are like, oh, this has to be perfectly shot, perfectly photographed, perfectly videotaped. And you just did it because it's much better to have it than to not have it. So thank you.
Well, let me throw another Valentine at you. I love what you're doing. And during your talk, I was thinking of Citizen Kane, right? Right. So Citizen Kane, for those of you who haven't seen it, was this landmark film that had all these innovations in cinematography. So everyone who takes film art in college, which I did, has to watch this movie. But the core of it is a fictitious persona modeled on Randolph Hearst, who had built this newspaper empire. So he was tremendously successful, fabulously wealthy, and had tremendous political influence. And a lot of his life was public. And then he dies. And they're going through stuff. And his last word was Rosebud. And the story is this mystery about what, this guy's done all these things. What's Rosebud? And in the end of the film, you discover what it is. It's a child's sled. And it says Rosebud. It's like a radio flyer. And it's just thrown into a furnace because it's a piece of junk. So while you were talking, I'm 68 years old. And we cleaned out my mom's house a few years ago when she went into assisted living. And I found a rosebud. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'd be delighted to be part of your exhibition because it's a completely worthless item, worth even less than the sled. And when I encountered it, I'm like, this explains a great deal of the trajectory of my life, and I've never told the story to anybody.
Wow. Oh, I would absolutely love that. Oh, and I do have to make a plug for Bill and Naomi's book, because if you like these stories of objects, you're going to love it. So
Bill has a comment online that you should connect with Keiko and Oscar, but have you met them?
yes, of course. Yeah, thank you.
I'm Marilyn Pruitt with Our Peaceful Path. This really resonates in a lot of things. Got lots of questions. Number one, how do you make money at this? Is it all free or what? How do you do that?
That's the biggest question. So a lot of this has been just building goodwill and all of that. So I do get hired by Greenwood Cemetery to host these events as goodwill building and community building. I've been invited to do this for companies, to host these events for companies. So I'm getting paid for those things. Right now with these public exhibits and things like that, I'm starting to talk about getting some, not me getting grants, but working with like the towns or the senior services or whatever, and having them get a grant to pay me. So, multiple ways.
Okay, the other thing is, are you interested in things like going to assisted living places and talking with them?
Yes.
Contact me. I know at least one, not possibly two, that will help you. This resonates on so many levels. I thought of several of the different things that are essentially worthless, but they have meant the world to me. And just finding this flower or this frog at the right time. So, oh yeah, that reminds me of who I am and why I do what I do. So it's a very valuable way to think. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm working with a funeral director in Pittsburgh right now on having this be done in funeral homes as well, so that once the memorial or funeral is over, there's a object, sometimes easier than just seeing a picture of someone, seeing an object and somebody who's passed away. So there's multiple things. So I will definitely be reaching out to you. Yes. assisted living, senior living, and even small museums, historical societies. I would love introductions.
Sorry, I'm back again. I feel like I'm speaking a lot today. What you just said about memorial brought up this for me, and I just wanted to throw out as a comment for anyone who does have to deal with a loved one dying, especially at home. Oftentimes there's a hospital bed right there on hospice. What I like to do after the person's body has been taken away is to turn the bed into a memorial space, an altar. And so family members and friends that are present, we can take objects and tell the stories of those objects, the connection to the person that's gone, and place photos and objects on the bed. So now it becomes a memorial or an altar. And so it's just another way of honoring those objects because there are stories with them. So thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, you're welcome.
We'll bring you into the next.
And
One last thing. So this is a thing that matters. So when everybody was like, you're going to travel the country, this is before I reconnected with my wife. You're going to travel the country and you ran by yourself as a woman. What are you've got to have an animal, a companion. And I was like, I'd be worried sick all the time. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Are they going to get loose? Any of that kind of stuff. So Flatsy, the flat cat, is the solution. So she's put on 93,000 miles so far and more to go. Any other comments or questions? And oh my goodness, thank you so much for all of it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, couple last questions. No, for you.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's right. I remember now.
Okay, so New Mexico's most important question, red or green?
Christmas, of course.
All right, and then what's the one thing that this community can do for you?
So that's what I was saying. Like, obviously, follow me on social media, LinkedIn, all of that. And come to an event if we put one on here and participate in the exhibit and make connections for me with these institutions and stuff. That would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Eric, I have the list of events. Do you want to talk about them? Since you're here.
Can unmute. Yes, I can. Let's see. So I'm going to throw some stuff in the chat. What I did was I just sent the batch to through through which platform am I using? Meetup. So I've got a handful that I want to share just to kind of hit pretty quickly. Peter Howley is a gentleman that we've seen here and there, but it's been a little while, but he's just like an expert in digital marketing and the science and the technology around that. He's actually giving a junior achievement talk a little bit later today, and I thought that might be fun. So it's got the form there. This is, we are winding up Hispanic Heritage Month. There's an event at the National Hispanic Cultural Center on the 14th, which is a Hispanic Business Summit. So that's looking pretty good. That's on the 14th. Let's see. What else can I say? Founder Syndicate. For folks who are familiar, there's a group that Sandra Hirschberg and Adam Halpern and a handful of other people put together called the Founder Syndicate. And they've been doing a variety of different meetups. They've got a great Slack channel. They're doing an in-person meetup with that's including family and fur babies. And I believe that is up in Corrales, but the information is at the Eventbrite link that's there on screen. And if you got it through email, and I'll send this to I'll send this back to through the through the 1MC channel as well. Other stuff that I'd highlight. Oh, one thing I wanted to highlight, and then we're getting into past next Wednesday, so we're fine. Next week is the Santa Fe International Film Festival. One of the reasons I mentioned that exactly is because last Ecstatic Days, I saw this come up on, I guess, Danielle's feed, and it just looked like a really interesting film. It's one of the ones, Saturday, October 20th. I thought it was on the 20th, but maybe it's on the 21st. So I'm not sure if Danielle would be willing to say a little bit more about that, but it's got a panel discussion associated with it. And I thought it was a real neat way of bringing together these kinds of themes.
Do I say anything more about it, Tanya? Sure. And if anybody else in the audience has an event they want to share, come on up. So The Last Ecstatic Days is a documentary film made about a gentleman who died of a glioblastoma at the age of, I think he was 36, 37. And a doctor and death doula named Aditi Sethi picked him up on social media. He was reporting his story for everyone to see. And it turned into this beautiful film, and it records his entire dying process. And his big thing was he wanted it to be ecstatic. He's going on a journey, and that's how he saw it. And so he wanted the world to witness death in a different way. So hopefully some of you can join us. I'm happy to share this document with anyone. Just email me at lisa@papagabq.com.
Good morning, I'm Barbara Dawson with Purple Mulch. And I have put a flyer on the table here and also in back. Next Wednesday from 11:30 to 1 o'clock, I'll be doing a free lunch and learn here in this center. And it's on authentic communication. We're all in business. And so it's called Through the Sales Process. But what if we upped the communication in this room? I mean, we all are meeting each other, getting to know each other, but what if we could increase significantly the depth of that communication? And that's really how I see the authentic communication course happening. It's a workshop. I see several people in the room that have taken my course, have taken my course. You participated in the workshop in the past. Maybe you could raise your hand if you're comfortable doing so. And talk to these people. Say, is it worth an hour and a half of my time to come and have lunch with Barbara? Hopefully their answer is yes.
I'm Marilyn with Our Peaceful Path. I also have something next Saturday, but the time doesn't conflict. I'm having my workshop from 10 to 1. And there are flyers here. We'll put some more out as well. The website is up and working. Let me know if you want to come, and we will see what we can do. I'm excited about it, so thank you.
Hello, Miriam Ortiz-Pino with More Than Organized again. I'm hosting a free webinar next Thursday, the 19th at 4 p.m. It's a decluttering masterclass. So if you struggle with stuff, with extra thoughts, with extra paper, stacks, piles, you know, all the detritus, not the important things, the detritus. You can go to morethanorganized.net and sign up there.
All right, so I just wanted to invite people. I am part again for like the 3rd or 4th year of the Before I Die New Mexico Festival, and I will be hosting 2 story sharing events, show and tales. One on Tuesday, I think it's 4 o'clock, and then one's on Thursday as well. So, but Wednesday. So one's on Tuesday and one's on Wednesday. Okay, so one is bring an object that has great meaning to you and consider what you want to have happen to it when you're dead and gone. And then the other one is something from somebody who's passed away that you remember them by. But the most important thing, not most important thing, but I'm delighted I got invited by Gail to host the Newly Dead game, or Newly Dead, the game. I asked Danielle to co-host it with me. So this is the newlywed game, but asking how well do you know your partner's final wishes? So join us. That's Friday, right? Friday at 6:30, right before our friends in Rio Rancho. Yeah.
I see some new faces in the room. I don't think we have any newbies online, but if you've never been to 1 Million Cups, or you've been and haven't come up and introduced yourself, would you come up and form a line now and just tell us who you are, how you heard about us? If you're a small business owner, when you're going to apply to present. Come on, there's more people back there. Let's do it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Taylor Delgado, and I do marketing. I do graphic design. I can do some website design. I do WordPress, show it. I really like what I've seen today. I think this is so cool. I'm really excited to be here. So thanks for having me, y'all.
Good morning. My name is Judy Chavez. I am retired, so I'm working on power lounging, doing very well. I'm Marty's wife, and she invited me here. This has been an awesome experience. Thank you.
I'm Nora. I'm a comic artist, but I mostly just came here to spend some time with my dad since I'm visiting friends.
Those are the best kind of visitors. I got a random call from my son yesterday. I answered, I'm like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. I guess we're ready to wrap it up, Paul.
Well, it's been another great week for entrepreneurship. I think what we saw today is that if you have the vision to start something, I think a business can certainly form around it. These events, look at the level of interest we have already in this room, and there's 1 million people in Metro Albuquerque. So, an idea that you have, that you pursue, that's grounded in the things you believe in, is the basis for a successful business, probably, if you're an entrepreneur. And if it isn't, you'll pivot. So I think we had another fantastic lesson today in entrepreneurship and in finding things that people didn't know were important to them. So keep up the great work. We'll see you next week, and do something to lift up entrepreneurship this week.
Thanks, everybody.